What is going on, everybody? James Hancock here. I'm back to shamelessly shower some more praise on Arcane, specifically Act 2 of Season 2, which dropped this morning on Netflix. And I don't want to repeat or regurgitate everything that I already said in my review last week for Act 1 of Season 2, but just to be clear, I think Arcane is a strong contender for the best video game adaptation ever made. Even if you've never played League of Legends or never even heard of League of Legends, the brilliance of Arcane is how it sucks you in, no matter what your knowledge of this world might be. I think there's more imagination, more style, more creativity in a single episode than most Hollywood studios generate in an entire year. And in my video last week, I placed a huge emphasis on this show's action, specifically the choreography, the brutality, the style. I mean, there are some balls to the wall action in this show that is unlike anything being done in animation anywhere else in the world. But these new episodes this morning gave me something that I wasn't expecting. Chills, just absolute goosebumps up and down my arms. At one point, I looked down at my right arm and on my right forearm, the hairs were standing straight up. I was like, well, that's not something I was expecting, because suddenly the show was getting to me when it came to like the heart and soul of the characters. And the moment that first caused that was when we see Vi and Jinx and baby Jinx, or whatever you want to call her. I think her name is Isha. But when we saw the three of them embracing the horribly mutated character Vander, I was just totally blown away. And I love it when a show or a movie takes me to that place where I can forget about all my bullshit verbal analysis as to why I like something as to why I don't like something, because in the end what we're craving with film and television is a heightened level of emotional experience, and very few shows and very few movies get me to that place. And just that one scene alone would have been enough for me to shower praise all over Act 2 of Season 2 of Arcane. But then I had the same experience again at the end of Episode 6 when, once again, baby Jinx, or Isha, whatever you want to call her, she was charging into battle to confront Vander when he was on this murderous rampage. And when the music swells and the characters are in action, Arcane does something that we don't really see all that often, where it's just, once again, nothing but like waves of chills and goosebumps. And the fact that this show can generate that level of emotional stimulation in me multiple times in a single season, I think that's why Arcane remains. Whether you're talking about the big screen, the small screen, like whatever platform you want to talk about, Arcane is one of the best things that anyone can watch anywhere in 2024. And that's not to say that the show doesn't suffer from its fair share of flaws. There are plenty of characters and storylines where I'm like, I don't care about any of this crap that's going on. But the high points, the peaks of the show were so intense and so stimulating and so exciting that it just keeps me riveted every step of the way. And my question is, who deserves the majority of the credit for the emotional impact of this show? My understanding is that showrunners Christian Link and Alex G, they basically act as kind of like a go-between between Riot Games, who runs League of Legends, and the French animation studio Fortiche, who's responsible for the actual animation, the production of Arcane. But however they decide to divide all the various duties, I think this show is laughably superior to so many other shows and movies being made in Hollywood right now. And I think one of the many problems facing the major studios in Hollywood these days is that they suffer from this increasingly old bureaucracy that makes movies or shows that they think young people might like, but they're not really sure. And I think it's one of the big problems that they don't get high on their own supply. Like, they don't actually care about the movies that they're making or the shows that they're making. But Arcane's the exact opposite, where it seems like this is a show made by and made for people who absolutely love this world. I suspect people who work on this show, like, hang out and just watch sequences together and like give each other high fives, just like blown away by what they were able to create. Compare that to something like Venom: The Last Dance. Like, do you really think that executives who work at Sony Pictures are going home and proudly showing Venom: The Last Dance to their friends and family members? I think not. Like, maybe there are a few true believers over at Sony who think a movie like Venom: The Last Dance is actually good, but the great majority of people recognize that it's a complete and total piece of crap. And if you still enjoy it all the same, like some people like watching terrible shows and movies, more power to you. I much prefer watching movies or shows where you can tell whoever is behind the camera has the philosophy that Billy Wilder once described back in the 1940s and 1950s, where he basically said he makes the movies that he wants to see, and everybody else is invited to the party. Everybody else is invited to come along for the ride. But when he made a movie like Double Indemnity or Some Like It Hot, he wasn't thinking, oh, well, there's an audience out there that might like this kind of story. He wanted to see it, so he made it. Or Frank Zappa with the music. He composed and recorded the music that he wanted to hear, and all he wanted in life was one great recording of the songs that he'd written so that he could listen to them. And I think one of the reasons that Arcane feels so fresh and so alive and so dynamic is that it's the exact opposite of so many loathsome trends in Hollywood, where basically we see a lot of franchise extensions and IP management where they run stale, familiar franchises right into the ground, squeeze every last dollar out of them that they can, and then move on to another familiar property. But it's like we haven't had a chance to get, like overly familiar with the characters of Arcane because they're brand new. Like the game's been around since 2009. But in spite of the millions of people who have played that game, like we're still getting to know Jinx. We're still getting to know Vi. It's not like we can compare them to, like, oh, well, they were so much better back in 1977 when they did them the first time. Like Hollywood really needs to let Star Trek go and let Star Wars go and let Marvel go. Like let all the franchises go and create new franchises inspired by the great franchises of the past. And that's probably a really poor business decision in the short term, but in the long term, it would force them to create new intellectual property, new franchises, because I just feel like all the franchises that have been around for many, many decades, we're slowly but surely going to see diminishing returns. Franchises like Arcane and League of Legends, that's the future. And I love how they're basically just saying, we're going to do 2 seasons and we're moving on. They're not going to overstay their welcome. They're not going to give us a chance to get sick of it. But it's like Star Trek, apart from like season 3 of Picard, oh my God, like I don't want to see any more fucking Star Trek. Like give me the shows and the movies from the late 60s up through like the late 90s and I'm good to go. Or Star Wars. Give me Star Wars from 1977. I don't call it A New Hope, just Star Wars. Give me Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. And that's pretty much all the Star Wars that I need. And I just can't stand watching these legendary franchises getting run into the ground. And I just love that like something like Arcane comes along and it's like, everybody step aside. We're going to show you action that you've never seen before. You're going to hear music that you've never heard before. I mean, stale needle drops. There's nothing that makes your movie feel old and like more outdated more quickly than playing a song that you've already heard 50 times in 100 other shows and movies. And I hate to keep picking on Sony and Venom: The Last Dance, but like every 5 minutes, they play a song that I was already totally familiar with. All the music in Arcane, like I don't know how old the music is, but it's all new to me, and so that's enough. And once again, everything about it just feels fresh, original, and groundbreaking. So why am I so high on this latest batch of episodes, you might be asking? Probably because episode 4 is a Jinx episode, and she's my favorite character on the show by far. She's lethal, she's hilarious, and Ella Purnell deserves a huge high five for her amazing voice work. I mean, she just has me cracking up left and right, like when she's letting all these people out of a jail, and she's like, here I am, your big fat hero. Not necessarily like the world's most groundbreaking line, but just the way she delivers it in that tone of voice, it just makes me crack up. But as I was watching that amazing sequence at the beginning of episode 4, the Paint the Town Blue montage, I kept thinking to myself, this show is getting right so many things that Joker Folie à Deux got wrong, where it's like we're getting to see Jinx transcend just being the diabolical villain who likes to burn the world down, and we're getting to see how she's providing inspiration for people, and they're spray painting the entire city and that sort of thing. But like, it just blew my mind how in a couple minutes this show was so much more satisfying than that entire $200 million bloated movie. And as I said last week, I think that's always where this show really shines, when it sets the screenplay aside and just gives us great music, great imagery, great action, great emotion. I think actually if I were going to criticize the show in a really robust way, it would definitely be with the script. I don't get as inspired by the screenplay as perhaps like some other fans of the show do, but it doesn't matter if I don't like the scripts, because the show gives us one incredible sequence after another. Like there's this sequence in episode 4 where you have these enormous insects battling to the death in this gladiator arena. I was like, oh my God, this is so fucking cool. This is so epic. But then the camera pulls back when we realize it's just Jinx and this little girl playing with these little bugs. But it was just so imaginative and so creative, and just this show is always full of surprises. Like all you have to do is just be patient for 5 or 6 minutes, and I guarantee this show will show you something that you have never seen before. But perhaps the strongest sequence in this latest batch of episodes is the beginning of episode 5, which was just balls to the wall insanity with so much swagger, so much confidence. But we see Vi living out her days as a pit fighter, and by day she's just beating the crap out of people, and or like hitting the heavy bag and working out and that sort of thing. And then by night, going out and getting rip-roaring drunk, just getting shit-faced. And I was like, God damn, like, this is so fucking fun. And very clearly designed for an adult sensibility. Like, I think there are probably plenty of kids out there who have discovered Arcane and love and adore Arcane, but the show's not pulling any punches or dumbing anything down or defanging or declawing or censoring anything. This is a pure, undiluted, uncompromised vision. And like that first like 3 or 4 minutes of that episode, it's like, all right, that's better than the great majority of movies that get released these days. It was just so satisfying, so brutal, so thrilling. I mean, put bluntly and put crudely, the sequence just has balls, and balls sadly are in incredibly short supply in a lot of Hollywood movies these days. And I hate to sound like such a Debbie Downer talking so much shit about Hollywood movies, but it's very easy to get frustrated and cynical these days because I prefer to go see big movies on the big screen. But the only big release this weekend was Red One with The Rock. And I was like, I'm not going to go see Red One, some stupid Santa Claus movie with Chris Evans and The Rock. I mean, it just looked idiotic and also depressingly familiar. We all know exactly how that movie's going to play out just from watching like 2 minutes of the trailer. So instead, I spent the weekend watching Netflix. Like I got up yesterday, watched part 2 of season 6 of Cobra Kai, which was kind of a mixed bag. And then last night, I watched Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. And admittedly, their fight was boring as hell, but there were some good fights earlier in the card. And then this morning, I got up and watched Arcane season 2, chapter 2 or part 2, or whatever the fuck they're calling it, act 2. And I'm not a big fan of like devoting too much time to streamers or watching TV and that sort of thing. But if the big studios aren't going to give me any other options with kick-ass movies on the big screen, I'll be forced to watch a lot of Netflix. And next week, I don't know if things are going to get much better. I have tickets to see Wicked on Wednesday and Gladiator 2 on Thursday. I will go into both movies hoping for the best, praying for the best, but I suspect both of those movies are going to disappoint me in a variety of ways. But getting back to Arcane, even if I'm a little bored by some of the characters and some of the storylines, none of that really matters because I know if I just sit tight and just show a little patience, it's only going to take a couple minutes before I'm going to see some dazzling imagery, hear some incredible music, watch some horrific brutality, or watch some amazing character beats where they, where they'll have like some tremendous act of self-sacrifice or heroism or bravery, where like the battles are just so thrilling and so goddamn exciting. It just makes so many other shows and movies look like they're standing still. And I guess maybe I should be more optimistic and positive about it. Like as opposed to talking about how like, the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power was, fucking dreadful, or how the Marvel Cinematic Universe is in really rough shape, or how Star Wars is giving us crap like the Acolyte. Instead of like bemoaning like the pitiful condition of so many other shows and so many other franchises, maybe I should just celebrate the fact that we have something as good as Arcane to enjoy here at the end of 2024. And I still have a few more movies throughout the rest of the year that I'm really excited to see. Like, I'm dying to see The Brutalist. I'm dying to see Nosferatu. I'm really excited for A Complete Unknown. I'm excited for Baby Girl. Like, there are reasons to be excited about going to the movies. But when I have a couple of weeks in a row where there's no new movie to get excited about or talk about, and this is a YouTube channel devoted to like celebrating film culture and movie culture and that sort of thing. Like movies remain my first and only love. And when I'm unable to express or celebrate that love for a few weeks on end, I get a little pissy. I start talking a little shit. But thank you to everybody involved in Arcane for reminding us that there are some filmmakers and storytellers out there who clearly love what they're doing, who do get high on their own supply, and I'm incredibly optimistic about what the future might hold for Fortiche, because I'm seeing here online they're working on something called Penelope of Sparta, which is set in a world of Greek mythology. Like, bring it on! But it's their first original film production, and if Fortiche starts making movies on their own, they're going to make Pixar and DreamWorks and Illumination and all those other studios seem so childish and infantile by comparison. Like, if they bring the same the adult perspective or atmosphere or vibe that Arcane has into feature films, holy shit, it's going to give me plenty of reasons to be excited about the future, as opposed to constantly pissing and moaning about the loathsome state about so many franchises that I love and adore. But I think at this point, I have showered enough praise on Arcane. I don't know if I'll be able to review the season 2 finale next week. I have a wedding to attend. My first cousin's getting married next Saturday, and I suspect that between the 2.5 hours it'll take to watch the show and then do the review, I don't know if I'll be able to get a chance to do it. So if I miss doing my season finale review, I apologize, but I'll be unavoidably detained with some social functions. But let me know what y'all think about this latest batch of episodes down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, hitting that notification bell. You know the drill. But I'll be back tomorrow with a box office breakdown for the weekend. Not a lot to discuss, but Red One at a minimum. We have to discuss whether or not it's finding an audience or not. And I'll definitely be having a look at Dune Prophecy on HBO tomorrow evening. So to be continued on this channel in the not so distant future. But thanks again for watching. But more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.